We look at this first example, we have a positive feedback loop. And I told you that that resulted usually in exponential change, growth or decay. Runaway train was an example I gave as well. Basically the massive destruction of the environment in the Lorax. And that was the profits loop, the business loop. So here's another example of positive feedback. We have a sand dune, and those are very finicky in terms of what will grow in sand, but they can grow seagrass and eventually convert it to healthy soil and grow larger bushes and eventually trees. That whole process is called succession. I don't know if you remember that from biology, ecological succession. We're actually going to cover that probably about middle of this semester. So anyway, we've got a sand dune, and these guys are driving their dune buggies over it because it's fun. Every time they drive through their path, they tear up some of the vegetation, which erodes and makes the path wider and bigger. And that makes it more attractive to drive on, which then tears up more vegetation, which erodes it and makes it more attractive to drive on, and it's a never-ending loop. And so eventually they're driving all over the sand dune and eating away all of the vegetation that was trying to grow there. Exponential destruction of the sand dunes ecology. We've got temperatures going up around the world every single year, and that leads to the melting of the ice caps, which leads to, there's something called albedo, which is how well something reflects. Well, if it's covered in ice, it's very light colored and it reflects well. You know this. If it's a hot summer day and you have a choice of a black t-shirt or a white t-shirt, you should wear the white t-shirt. It'll keep you just a little bit cooler. When the ice caps melt, that exposes more dark soil, which absorbs more energy. It's less reflective, which makes the temperatures go up here at the surface, which melts more ice. And once again, never-ending loop, exponential growth in how the temperatures continue to change on Earth. We call that global warming. Positive feedback. Negative feedback tends to bring about stabilization to the system, equilibrium. It works to slow change that is happening. If we look at predator-prey over lots of generations, hare, which is like a rabbit, the hare population explodes because they reproduce pretty fast. And that provides lots of food for the lynx, which is cat-like. They hunt the rabbits and their population explodes. They then eat most of the rabbits, and then the rabbits die off and the hare population dies off because there's not as much food. At first, it looks like exponential growth. We've actually reached what is called a carrying capacity, the maximum number of lynx that can be supported or sustained. And then the rabbits or the hares slowly come back, and then they grow exponentially again. And then the lynx have plenty of food, and they start to come back. And it's a cycle, right? So we have exponential growth, exponential decay. But if we average everything out, these are both going to be straight lines, kind of an average population for the predator and the prey. And so it's really a constant cycle over time, which is what we mean by negative feedback. The system is stable. When one goes up, the other goes up, then it goes down, the other goes down. Everything cancels out. We can apply this to climate. Well, hold on a second. We just said rising global temperatures was runaway train, right? Well, what if this happens? Temperatures go up, ice caps melt, and that means there's more moisture that can go into the air. That's what clouds are, big piles of moisture. And clouds actually reflect solar energy back into space. And so that would cause temperatures to fall. Remember that we don't have just negative feedback or just positive feedback on Earth. These are happening in systems at the same time. They coexist. And that's really what system dynamics is all about. the ways that positive feedback loops and negative feedback loops interact with each other. There are things on Earth that are trying to grow exponentially, the human population, and there are things on Earth that are trying to balance it out. Education about population growth. Here's a great example. We can combine two feedback loops and look at how a city operates. Every once in a while, there's a big boom downtown and they build new stuff. They build sports venues. They build nice apartments where people can live. They're now building multi-use vertical apartments, which are great for urbanization. They're putting gyms in the first floor. They're putting restaurants. They're putting all the amenities you need so that you don't have to go anywhere. Everything you need to be happy is right there in your apartment complex. And so you don't need a car. That's good for population density, pollution. So people are attracted to the city. I'd love to live in one of those nice apartments down on the canal, but I was dumb and I had a bunch of kids, and now I'm stuck in the suburbs living that life, the American dream. But the city can be very attractive for people who are young and don't have big families yet. The problem is you get too many people that live in the city, crime goes up, pollution goes up, population density can be discomforting, traffic goes up. And so people decide, I want to live in the suburbs. I'm going to have a family. I'm going to raise my kids not downtown. And so they leave the city. So it's this never-ending cycle of people attracted to the city and people leaving the city. And so typically negative feedback, if you give it enough time, it'll cancel out the growth. There are so many examples that we could give for feedback loops. And so I'll come back to these throughout the year. We'll look at an environmental issue and I'll say, is that negative or positive feedback that's happening? All right, that's Friday. Any questions? I have a few for you. I put a 10 question review with a bonus point on Canvas, so you can knock those out today if you'd like. I made the due date Sunday at midnight. So get on there and make sure that, prove to me that you've learned something the last 2 weeks here. And we'll start on plate tectonics next Monday. Appreciate all of your attention and hard work this week, guys. Keep up the wonderful job that you're doing digitally. Bye-bye.